So what I was thinking was a good idea was to possibly address some questions that some of you guys might have about the book Shamans and Healers. So I don't know if it wasn't clear from the book itself. Let me just explain how this book came to be. Although I do think I mentioned it in the book itself, but I mean, in case you missed it, basically I had the idea to go to Peru since 2007 or so. As you know, I actually went to Peru in 2009. That's when the actual trip took place. But since 2007 or so, I was already doing ayahuasca at home. I was brewing my own ayahuasca, and I was in communication with Alan Shoemaker, who wrote a book. His first whatever book that I had, it was about his adventures in Peru with ayahuasca and all that. I thought it was really good writing. I don't know how true it was. I don't know how accurate it was. Later on, I began to have my doubts. But as I first read Alan Shoemaker's book, which wasn't, I don't think it was published anywhere. I just found it online. I was sort of, how would you say it? Well, I was intrigued, and I wrote to Alan and I said, hey man, I want to come to Peru, I want to study, I want to do what you did, I want to have these experiences. And Alan wrote back to me and basically said, how much money do you have? And I said, I don't have any money, I just finished school. I haven't really done any work, so I don't have money. And he says, well, you need money in Peru. He said, you can't just show up there with no money. So that conversation basically led me to, that plus my parents getting tired of me of sitting at home and doing nothing, as the way they saw it. I was actually painting pictures, but since nobody was buying, to my parents it was like it was as if I was doing nothing. So that impulse of getting money to go to Peru, plus my parents wanting me to get out of the house and do something, that led me to going to South Korea and making some money working as an English teacher. And then I was gonna go to Peru right after this South Korea trip. Like as soon as I got back from the trip, I was gonna just pack my bags and go to Peru. But what happened was that before I went to Korea, and this is the kind of thing where it's like God is working and you're not even aware of it. So before I went to Korea, before I made the decision, I spent like a day or two just contemplating, looking at different specialities and different jobs that one could have, and wondering like, hey, if I had to get a job, like what kind of a job would I want? I mean, apart from being an English teacher, which I didn't see that as something I would want to do, for the rest of my life or anything like that. That wasn't like that was never a career choice. It was just something to do. It was just so I could get out of the house basically and stop bothering my parents and get some independence and make some money. But it wasn't a career choice. So when I started thinking about what kind of a job would I possibly like to do as a career, the only thing at that point that intrigued me and interested me was the job of an art therapist, because there is some overlap. I mean, it's therapy, it's therapeutic, it's healing. It has to do with my interest in Peru, in those indigenous modalities of healing, and it has to do with my interest in art in my practice as a practicing artist. So I looked into that, and I said to myself, you know, if I were to get a job, I would want to be an art therapist. But I also knew that, you know, nobody was going to take me as an art therapist because I didn't have the degree. Like, you needed a full-on 4-year university degree or college degree for that job, and I didn't have that. So I looked at it. I said, well, that would be nice, but I'm not going back to school for 4 years to study it. So I don't want it that much. So the reason I mention it is because as soon as I got back from Korea, and you know, I haven't seen any of my friends for like a year, I decided to see some friends and call everybody. So I did. You know, I started calling people. And one of my friends, who was like the third or fourth person that I called, he told me he was an artist himself, and he had this organization his wife was running for refugees, and he said, well, you know, he said, we're doing an art therapy program, and we've got a registered therapist already. So, well, what we need is a sort of youth therapist, somebody who's gonna help out with the kids and the teenagers. And if you're available, there's a contract. It's a year contract, and you can do this job. So I had my plan to go to Peru at that point already, but because this was kind of like, I mean, it was kind of like a direct answer to my, even though I would say my prayer, though I didn't pray, it was just like something that I thought inside myself. But I thought, like, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be an awesome job to have? And it just didn't feel right to kind of get that just out of the blue, being unqualified, and then turn it down and say, no, you know what, I don't want it. Like, I'm going to Peru. So that's why I stayed back another year, because of that. And because I stayed back another year, when did I get back? I got back probably in the spring. I got back in the spring. In the summer, I went to Peru for the first time, and I did that retreat with Percy Garcia that I write about in my book. That's when, you know, I remembered my Korean girlfriend and kind of got over that trauma. And then it was like a difficult time from there on. It was like from summer to winter. I just felt like, you know, something wasn't right. Like, I just wanted to get back to the jungle. I wanted to study. I wanted to learn more, all that. And I just wasn't feeling happy with my job anymore, with the whole bureaucracy of it, the politics, the meetings. I just wanted to get away. It was also, it got, you know, dark and cold. It's Canada winter. So I just remember I was pretty depressed. And I was just spending all my days like meditating, basically sitting there doing Zen meditation and just meditating. And I began and smoking, you know, I was smoking this jungle tobacco, meditating, listening to Icaros, the sort of magical songs of Peru, of the shamans, and just like I started skipping work. I started calling in sick and saying, you know, I'm not feeling so well, and I wasn't. I mean, I wasn't feeling well because I was feeling depressed. So this is when I mentioned this in my book. I think it was New Year or something. I just went out to stand underneath the stars, and I smoked my mapacho, my jungle tobacco, and it came to me, like, I just understood that I need to learn Spanish. It was just like, you need to learn Spanish, and I said, okay, sure, how? And the answer was very clear. It was basically, the answer was basically, you need to put an ad on Craigslist and look for a language exchange partner. So I did, and that's how I met Ninfa, who became my girlfriend and my wife eventually. And we just hit it off like right away. So why am I launching into this like super long story? It was just I'm just trying to explain that I didn't set out to, to prove anything. I didn't set out to write a book. I didn't set out to like disprove shamanism or prove Christianity or anything like that. It was like I was very much into shamanism. I was not at all interested in Christianity. Before going on this trip to Peru, which I bought the tickets and then I waited and I waited and I waited. I think I bought the tickets in the winter and then I waited until summer. I had to wait until summer to actually go. So I bought the tickets and I waited, and just before that trip, like a week before going to Peru, I went, well, rather a month or so before going to Peru, I went to Ukraine, to my homeland. I saw my grandparents there, and I saw, and that's in Ukraine. While I was in Ukraine, I had this time by myself, well, with my grandparents, but it was a lot of alone time because I could just, get away from everybody, and I didn't have to, I had time to contemplate. So I was contemplating what I would do. I was contemplating like, why am I going to Peru? What is the whole purpose of this whole thing, and what am I going to do there? And there in Ukraine, it came to me that I need to write a book. So that's where that idea came from. It was like, you're going and you need to start writing about it, and start writing now. So I started writing that book like in Ukraine. I started keeping a diary, anticipating the trip to Peru. And then I just continued this diary throughout the trip. And again, like I had no intentions, no agenda. It was just like, I'm doing this thing and I need to document it. So that's what happened. I was just writing the diary, and that diary became the book, Shamans and Healers. There was no agenda with that book. There was no agenda whatsoever. It's just pure authentic diary. So yes, I kind of reflected on some of the things later on. I did a little bit of reflecting and trying to figure out what happened and why it happened and all that. Yes, but I left the book pretty much as is, as a diary. I didn't want to fill it with my own sort of, with some kind of a philosophy or some kind of a point to prove. So there are people who read the book and they say like, okay, I read the book, I mean, it was interesting or whatever, but I mean, what's the point? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to prove? Like, what statement are you making? What is your position, etc., etc. So that they want, like, a lot of people want like clear-cut answers or something. They want me to give them a formula and say this is how it is, and I don't do that in the book. That book, Shamans and Healers, it's kind of it's pretty, I mean, it's largely negative, right? Like, it's largely focused on the negative because that was my experience. I mean, I had a negative experience with the shamans, and I wrote about it exactly as it happened. I had very high expectations initially, and I was very willing to do whatever I was being asked to do. I was willing to follow all of the instructions and, sort of carry out all of the sacrifices that I needed to do, sacrificing my will, my money, my free time, my friendships, in order to make the best out of this. I was doing, fasting, plant diets and all that. So I gave it my all, and my experience was what it was. I mean, I did not set out to prove anything with that book. I just want you to experience what I experienced, and then make your own conclusions from it. So if something wasn't clear, or you'd like to get some more information about something, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Just like leave a message in the group, or leave a message in the comments, or send me an email or something, and I'll do another video at some point, and I'll address it. But for now, I just wanted to make it clear that the book, it was not written with any objective in mind, and it was just written spontaneously. Just it is what it is, and I do hope you enjoy it. And I think the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to record this book. Maybe I'm going to record this book as an audiobook. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I don't feel comfortable with the sound of my own voice. Like, I don't really enjoy listening to the sound of my own voice, and I'm probably going to mess it up multiple times. And I don't like the whole editing process either, going back and fixing my mistakes and all that. But I've got it. It's on my mind, basically, to record an audio version of Shamans and Healers, and also my second book, Walk in the Light, which is about some of my adventures with evangelical Christians in Texas and elsewhere. I think it is what it is. It might be, that second book might be naive, might be as naive as the first, or even more naive, because going into this evangelical what would you say it field, that was completely foreign to me. I mean, I had no experience with evangelical Christianity in my life. I mean, I've never been to an evangelical church or anything until this whole Peru experience. So the second book, Walk in the Light, is probably just as naive as the first. Sorry to say, but that's just how it is. But it does have some teachings from Jose and Ella from Refugio, and it's just a follow-up of the first book. It kind of follows up on what happened between 2010, when I got back to, got out of Peru, and 2014 or so. So that's the second book, and then there's a third book called God with Us. And this third book, this came about a couple of years ago. I had a lot of travel notebooks, just diaries of my travels, and some of those, I opened the book and some of my diaries, and I read some of that stuff, and I said, you know what, some of this is really good. Like, some of this is really interesting, and it would be a shame to just lose it and just forget about it. So So that's why I decided to make the third book, God with Us. That wasn't done with, I mean, none of these books were done with any sort of target in mind. Like, I didn't have a target audience, I didn't have an idea what I wanted to achieve, why I was writing it, none of that. Like, I mean, none of it. It's just how I am. That's just my personality. Like, I'm painting a picture right now. I have no idea where it's going. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. I'm just painting it. I'm just working and seeing what happens. And if I like it, if I like what I make, I'll show it. I'll exhibit it. And if somebody else likes what I make, then it will sell. But that's how I work. I don't really think about, oh, I'm making this to fit that market, or to prove this point, or whatever it might be. So of all my books, that's what I was trying to explain, is that none of them have a point or a sort of premeditated reason for its existence. Like, the first book, just done as a travel document, because I thought it was going to be interesting, this whole Peru experience, and I wanted to document it. That's the first book. Second book, I wanted to answer mainly the question people were asking. Some people were asking, like, are you still Christian? What is your, like, how are you still in touch with Javier? Like, what's going on? So I wanted to answer those questions, and I started writing the second book to answer those questions specifically. So that's the second book, God with Us. And then the third book was already written in a way, because I always, before I had kids, now I've got kids, but before I had kids and I used to travel a lot, I would always keep diaries, and some of those diaries turned out to be interesting, and I decided that I need to copy them out and make a book. So those are the three books. There's a fourth book that's unrelated to the spiritual subject. That's called Remembering Toller Cranston, and that's my friendship with my friend Toller. He's an artist. That will only be of interest to people who know, who've heard of Toller, or who are maybe artists or interested in the arts. It's not it's not a spiritual book. So that's it. Again, thanks for your time. Let me know about your questions, comments, and if you like, join up with the Patreon account. I got a Patreon page. I'm putting out some songs, and the books are available in PDF for free to the patrons. There's, I don't know what else is on there. I put some writings and some other things. So I appreciate your support, because these books, like, I make no money off of these books. Like, even though when I wrote Shamans and Healers, some people were complaining, saying, like, you need to give this book away for free, like, you're a blah blah blah, you're like using, you had these experiences with the shamans, and now you're just like making money off of it or something. I was like, dude, you guys have no idea how much work it is to write a book, not to mention going through that whole experience, which I don't wish anybody to go through what I went through. But just going through that extremely intense experience, and then also writing a book about it, like, and then you want me to give it away for free? Like, guys, I made, like, I don't know how much money I made in 10 years, like $500 from all my sales. I mean, come on. I made like no money, and I'm not doing it for money, but you need to also appreciate the fact that it's not easy at all to do. It's not easy to go out and study with the shamans and write about it. And that there are repercussions in the sense that some of those people are not happy with what I wrote. And I didn't write everything, by the way. I did not write like, it's not like some people think I like went out and I dug up all the dirt on all the shamans or something. I put it in there. I didn't. There are some other shamans. There are basically there's a lot more dirt out there than what I put in, because I was aware that, you know, some of those people would read my book. I didn't want to just like make everything public. So I made public stuff within reason. You can make your own conclusions. I'll just say that I understated it. I understated the stuff that was going on, the immoral stuff. I understated it rather than overstating it. That's all I'm going to say. All right, guys, I think that's enough for this video. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be recording more later. Peace out. Blessings.